Imagine a country pushed into a corner. It's shackled by crippling economic sanctions, staring down the barrel of overwhelming military power, and pretty much isolated on the world stage. By all conventional thinking, this nation should be folding, right? But what if it's not? What if, hidden beneath all the headlines about nuclear deals and military flexing, there's a whole other battle going on? A quiet, complex fight for survival and influence, happening in the shadows, in the digital world, and across global supply lines. This is the story of Iran in mid-2025 and its secret playbook against what many see as total US domination. Now, let's forget the usual hotspots for a second. While everyone's watching Iran's nuclear program, which, by the way, now has uranium enriched to alarming levels and enough material for several potential weapons, according to the IAEA. And while the world is holding its breath over stalled diplomatic talks and direct military clashes, Tehran is busy rolling out some unique, often surprising, strategies. These aren't just about thumbing their nose at the world. They're about adapting, being resilient, and flat out refusing to be wiped off the global map. So, the real question isn't just if Iran will back down, but how it keeps resisting, and what this complicated game of chess means for the rest of us. The iron cage, acknowledging the pressure, let's be real, the pressure on Iran by mid-2025 is crushing. The maximum pressure campaign, brought back and cranked up, is designed to squeeze every last drop out of the Iranian economy. Sanctions are hitting everything from oil exports, the country's lifeblood, to its ability to even use international banks. Diplomatically, Iran is facing serious heat. For the first time since 2005, the IAEA Board of Governors has officially said Iran isn't playing by the nuclear safeguards rules. Those indirect talks with the US, once a tiny glimmer of hope, they've stalled out again and again, especially after Israeli strikes on Iranian nuclear and military sites. The US has laid out its demands. Stop all uranium enrichment and cut off support for regional proxy groups. And they've been warned that not complying could lead to serious military trouble. Militarily, the shadow war is now out in the open. Israel has been hitting Iranian assets hard, and the US has threatened to jump in directly. This is the iron cage the US and its allies have been building. The reveal beyond the obvious. So, how does a country survive all that? How does it keep projecting any kind of power, even if it's diminished, and still go after its strategic goals? This is where Iran's secret playbook comes into view. It's a strategy with many layers, going way beyond defiant speeches from Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khomeini, who's sworn Iran will never bow to threats. This playbook has a few key chapters, each one designed to push back against a specific type of American pressure. These are the unique and often surprising tactics Tehran is using right now. In mid-2025, Economic Jiu-Jitsu, the art of sanctions busting, the first chapter is all about economic survival. Or maybe we should call it economic jiu-jitsu. When the official doors are slammed shut, Iran has become a master of the unofficial. Despite massive efforts to cut its oil exports down to nothing, Iranian oil is still getting to market, especially to buyers like China. How? Through a shadow fleet of tankers that are experts at evasion. We're talking ships messing with their location data, doing ship-to-ship transfers in shadowy waters, and using fake documents to hide where their cargo really came from. OFAC advisories in 2025 have specifically called out these increasingly clever methods. But it's not just about oil. Iran is getting cozier economically with powers outside the West, particularly Russia and China. They're looking for different markets, investment, and ways to get around US-dominated financial systems. There's even talk of trade happening in local currencies, or trying out cryptocurrencies to move money and support its allies, all in an effort to dodge traditional banking controls. Iran also uses what are known as shadow banking networks. This is a complicated mess of exchange houses, trading companies, and front companies. Often based in places like Hong Kong or the UAE, these networks let Iranian entities do international business and get their hands on funds without bringing them directly back to Iran, basically creating their own parallel financial tracks, like ridiculously complicated transactions hopping. Through multiple exchange houses or the use of forged papers to hide where the money truly originated, this economic toughness, born out of pure necessity, is a key reason Iran can withstand sanctions. even if its economy is still struggling badly with high inflation and a devalued currency. Diplomatic Dance and Narrative Warfare, Chapter 2 of Iran's Playbook. It's a tricky diplomatic dance mixed with a major effort to control the story, both at home and around the world. Even though it's being formally called out by groups like the IAEA, Iran hasn't become a total outcast. It keeps talking to European powers, China and Russia, trying to find any cracks in the international front against it. Recent talks, even if they're indirect and full of problems, show that several parties are willing to keep at least some lines of communication open. Iran actively paints US and Israeli actions as breaking international law. They trying to get sympathy or support from non-Western countries and in places like the United Nations. This feeds into a bigger story of resisting what they see as Western dominance. At home, the Iranian leadership, with figures like Supreme Leader Khamenei out front, pushes a narrative of strong resistance against foreign enemies. This messaging is meant to build unity inside the country and make the hardships from sanctions seem justified. While there's definitely a lot of unhappiness internally because of the economy and social restrictions, the threat from outside is often used to stir up nationalist feelings. Interestingly, there are also signs that Iran is tweaking its foreign policy. Some analysts think Tehran, being weaker in the region, is shifting towards more practical goals and preferring quiet diplomacy over open fights when it can. This includes keeping lines of communication open, often using go-betweens like Oman, even with its main rival, the United States. There's also been a noticeable warming up with regional rivals like Saudi Arabia, suggesting a strategy to cool down tensions on some fronts so it can focus on others. This diplomatic maneuvering is all about finding some breathing room, exploiting divisions among its opponents, and making itself look like a resilient, essential player in the region. Asymmetric power plays, the art of uneven warfare, the third, and maybe the most explosive chapter of the playbook, is Iran's reliance on asymmetric power. Since it can't match the conventional military muscle of the US or Israel, Iran has poured resources into capabilities meant to deter, disrupt, and deny. That's strategic asymmetry in a nutshell. A big piece of this is its nuclear program. By enriching uranium to 60% and building up a significant stockpile, Iran keeps itself as a threshold state. This creates a useful fog of strategic ambiguity and gives it leverage. It's a powerful bargaining chip in talks and a deterrent against threats to its very existence, even without a fully built bomb. Tehran insists its enrichment is for peaceful civilian purposes, but the capability itself is a mighty tool. Then there's the axis of resistance. Iran's network of proxy groups and allied militias spread across the Middle East. Think Hezbollah in Lebanon, Houthi rebels in Yemen, and various factions in Iraq and Syria. While this network has taken some serious hits and might be more fragmented than it used to be, these groups still let Iran project influence stir up regional trouble and hit back indirectly, all while maintaining a bit of it wasn't me. They act as Iran's forward defense, trying to fight enemies away from Iranian soil. Recent Houthi attacks on shipping in the Red Sea, sometimes using Iranian-supplied parts or intelligence, show how they can inflict economic pain and mess with global trade. Iran has also developed serious missile and drone capabilities. It keeps working on a diverse arsenal, possibly including more advanced systems with longer ranges, and has shown it's willing to use them. The unveiling of new domestically made drones shows they're still committed to this part of their arsenal. Cyber warfare is another crucial asymmetric tool. Iran has been accused of, and reportedly has shown, it can launch disruptive cyber attacks against critical infrastructure and financial systems, either directly or through its proxies. This gives them a deniable and relatively cheap way to retaliate or apply pressure. Intentionally targeting commercial air traffic with missile threats or cyber disruptions is also a newer tactic to cause economic and psychological damage. Finally, there's the constant threat of messing with maritime traffic through critical choke points, like the Strait of Hormuz, while completely closing it is a higher-risk move that could also hurt Iran's own remaining oil exports. Just the threat itself is a powerful lever in its dealings with global powers that depend on energy flows from the Gulf, mid-2025. The tightrope walk, effectiveness, and the looming risks. So, how well is this multi-part playbook actually working in mid-2025? Well, it's a bit of a mixed bag. Iran has definitely shown an amazing ability to adapt and resist being completely crushed. Its sanctions-busting tricks, while not fixing its deep economic problems, have kept the state from sinking. Its diplomatic moves have stopped it from being totally isolated. And its asymmetric capabilities still give it a certain amount of deterrence and leverage. However, the costs are huge. Iran's economy is crippled, causing real hardship for its people and fueling internal unrest. Its axis of resistance has suffered major setbacks, with key allies like Hamas and Hezbollah weakened. The collapse of the Assad regime in Syria has also messed up crucial supply lines and influence networks. The constant pressure and direct military actions by its adversaries are definitely taking a toll. The whole situation is balanced on a knife's edge. The risk of anyone miscalculating is dangerously high. A limited strike could blow up into a wider regional war, possibly pulling in more countries and causing catastrophic disruptions to global energy supplies. Iran's strategy of nuclear brinkmanship, while meant to be leverage, could itself trigger a preemptive attack if certain red lines are thought to have been crossed. The path Iran is walking is a dangerous one, a high-stakes tightrope walk between defiance and disaster. Iran's strategies are complex and always changing. What do you think is the most effective part of their playbook? And what are the biggest risks as we look towards the rest of 2025? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want more deep dives into the hidden dynamics of global power, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Ultimately, Iran's secret playbook isn't about winning a clear victory against a superpower. It's about survival, holding on to its strategic independence, and carving out a place for itself in a hostile world. In mid-2025, Tehran isn't likely to just give up. Its leadership seems determined to stay on a path of defiance, using every tool it has, from shadow economies and diplomatic chess games to proxy forces and cyber capabilities. This isn't a game that stands still. Strategies will change, alliances might shift, and new pressures will pop up. The core of Iran's approach, though, seems to be a belief that through resilience, a mixed bag of resistance tactics, and a willingness to take a beating, it can outlast the pressure aimed at bringing it to its knees. The secret playbook is still being written, and its next chapters will undoubtedly shape the future of the Middle East and beyond. The world is watching, and everyone knows the stakes couldn't be higher.